the IRS doesn't make mistakes, and neither do you. You know your own signature. You know what you've signed and what you haven't. You know the accounts with your name on them, the paperwork that belongs to you, the documents that don't. Or at least you think you do. I thought I did too, until I opened a piece of mail that had my name on a business I'd never heard of, attached to an account I'd never touched, funding a life I didn't know existed. My name is Rachel Voss. I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when the man you trusted completely turns out to have been trusting on you. I've been married to Owen for 9 years. Owen does financial consulting, or at least that's what he always told me. Numbers, spreadsheets, client meetings that ran late. I work in HR at a logistics company. I make less than he does. I never cared about that. We had a house in Columbus, a joint account, a routine that felt solid and boring in the best way. I trusted him completely. You know how some women say they had a feeling, a gut thing, a quiet alarm that never fully went off? I didn't have that. I had an IRS letter. It was a Tuesday. I grabbed the mail on my way in from the car, grocery bags in one hand, envelopes in the other, and I almost didn't look at it, almost just set it on the counter for Owen to deal with later. He always handled the mail. That was just how it worked. But the business name on the front stopped me. Owen's last name, my last name. A company I had never, not one single time, heard Owen mention. I set the groceries down. The letter was addressed to our home address. The IRS wanted to discuss $47,000 in unpaid back taxes, and listed inside as a cosigner on the business bank account, my name. I stood at that counter for 4 minutes without moving. Then I put the letter back in the envelope, set it exactly where I found it, and went back to making dinner, because I needed to think before I acted. Owen came home at 6:47. I know the exact time because I'd been watching the clock for 2 hours. He walked in, dropped his keys, kissed me on the cheek. "Good day?" "Pretty good," I said. "You?" "Brutal," he said. "Client meeting ran until 5. I'm exhausted." He went upstairs to change. I stood at the stove and thought about the letter. A business in Owen's name, my name on a bank account. 4 years of operation. We had been married for 9. Which meant this company existed for almost half our marriage. And I had never heard one word about it. That night I waited until Owen was asleep. Then I got on my laptop and started looking. It didn't take long. Vows Property Holdings LLC was a real registered Ohio business. Owen was the registered agent. Our home address was on file, but there was a second address, a business address on a separate set of filings. I searched it, a rental property, a duplex in Clintonville, registered to our LLC, which was registered to us, which I had never signed a document for. I sat there for a minute just staring at the screen. Then I Googled the property address. A Facebook post came up. 3 years old. Someone's moving announcement tagged at that address. A woman named Dana. A photo of her and a toddler in front of a green front door. Caption, "New home, new chapter. So grateful." In the comments, someone had written, "Owen must be so proud of you both." I read that sentence 4 times. I want to tell you I handled what came next with grace. I want to tell you I stayed calm, closed the laptop, went to bed. That's not what happened. I walked to the kitchen, opened the cabinet where we keep the wine, then just stood there with my hand on a bottle I didn't open. 5 years. The moving post was 3 years ago. The toddler looked maybe 2. Dana had been waiting 5 years for Owen to have more time. We'd been married for 9. I did the math standing in that kitchen in the dark, and the number felt like something physical, like a number you could choke on. 4 years of an LLC, 5 years of Dana, 9 years of me. I thought about walking upstairs. I thought about exactly what I would say, how I'd say it, what his face would do. I played it out in my head 2, maybe 3 times. Then I closed the cabinet, went back to the kitchen table, opened the laptop again. Because here's the thing about Owen. He is very good at managing things, at explaining things, at making the version of events that works best for him feel like the only version that makes sense. And I had just decided, standing in that kitchen in the dark, that I was done being one of the things he managed. That was the only decision I made that night. Everything else came after. Here's what you need to understand about the next 3 weeks. I didn't confront Owen. Not once. I know that might surprise you, but I knew what would happen if I did. He would minimize, explain, manage my reaction the way he managed everything. I needed the full picture before he got a single chance to reshape it. So I outmanaged him. I called a CPA during my lunch break. Someone new, someone Owen had never met, paid out of a small savings account I'd had since before we married. One Owen never thought about. I brought the IRS letter. I brought the LLC filing I'd printed from the Ohio Secretary of State's website. She spread the papers out on her desk, walked me through it in about 12 minutes. The LLC is real, she said. The bank account is real. Your name is on the founding documents as co-signer. She paused. The issue is, this doesn't look like your signature. I looked at where she was pointing. It wasn't. For years. Owen had been running a rental property, depositing rental income into a business account in my name for 4 years, and the signature that made it legal wasn't even mine. She looked at me over her reading glasses. Do you have an attorney? I did not. You should get one, she said. The attorney's name was Patricia. 22 years in family and financial law. The kind of woman who listens without interrupting and then tells you exactly where you stand. I told her everything. The LLC, the forged signature, the rental property, Dana's Facebook posts, the child in the photo, the toddler who would be about 4 now. Patricia didn't flinch. Has Owen given you any indication he wants to end the marriage? She asked. No, I said. She nodded slowly. Good. That helps us. She explained what we were looking at: marital asset concealment, potential forgery, and a tax liability that was entirely Owen's problem, because the signature on those documents wasn't mine, and Patricia was going to make sure that was very, very clear. Strong how? I asked. She smiled. Not warmly. Professionally. Strong enough that he'd be very motivated to settle quickly. I drove home and made dinner. Owen came home at 7:15. We watched TV. He fell asleep on the couch. I sat next to him for a few minutes looking at his face. 9 years, then I went to bed. This is Broken Vows, and what happened next is the part Owen never saw coming. The next 6 weeks, I was a different person. Owen didn't know it. Patricia had a forensic accountant go through the LLC's public filings. A private investigator, yes, I hired one, and no, I don't regret a single dollar of it, filled in the rest. Dana Mercer, 31 years old, a 4-year-old son. The child's name was Owen. I remember reading that in the report and thinking, of course, Dana had been with my husband for 5 years. She thought they were building toward something, toward him leaving me, toward a real life together. She told the investigator Owen had said things were complicated with his wife and he needed more time. She'd been waiting 5 years for him to have more time. I didn't hate her. I want to be clear about that. Owen had lied to her just as completely as he'd lied to me. She just didn't know about me either. Here's how it ended. Not with a scene. Not with me throwing anything or confronting him at the front door. Not with tears. On a Tuesday morning, 4 weeks after I first found that letter, Patricia filed for divorce. The submission included documentation of the concealed LLC, the forged signature, 4 years of redirected rental income, and a forensic accounting summary of what those assets should have contributed to our marital finances. Owen came home from work to divorce papers and a 6-inch stack of financial records he didn't know existed. He called me from the driveway. I watched him through the kitchen window, sitting in his car, phone to his ear, face going through about 5 expressions in 30 seconds. I let it ring. He called 3 more times. Then he texted, "We need to talk." I sent back 1 sentence, "Talk to Patricia." The settlement took 4 months. In Ohio, concealment of marital assets during divorce goes to the injured party, the rental income, the LLC value, the back taxes. Owen's problem, not mine, because that signature was forged, and Patricia made that fact impossible to ignore. Owen wanted to negotiate. Patricia negotiated. I got the house, a significant portion of what the LLC should have paid into our joint accounts across 4 years, and a clean exit from a marriage that had been, it turned out, only half mine. Owen moved into the Clintonville duplex with Dana. I'm told things are complicated. I genuinely don't spend much time thinking about it. There's a mug I threw away when I moved out, one of those couples' mugs, you know the kind, his and hers. Owen had never once used his, but I used mine every single morning for 6 years. I kept it through the whole packing process, threw it out at the new apartment. Didn't even think about it until a week later when I went to reach for it. That's what 9 years feels like when it ends. Not one big thing, just the small ones you didn't know you'd miss. There's also this. Somewhere in Clintonville, there's a little boy named Owen. I never met him, I never will. But he's out there, 4 years old, growing up in a duplex his father owns. Through an LLC, his father was too cowardly to put in his own name alone. That part I can't completely let go. Not the money, not the years, the kid who didn't ask for any of it. My apartment is smaller than that house. Quieter. I painted the bathroom a color Owen would have vetoed. I have a cat he was allergic to. I know exactly where every dollar in my account comes from. I am not healed. I don't think healed is the right word for what happens after 9 years of partial fiction. But I know the difference now between a life I built and a life I was allowed to believe in. And the IRS letter that started all of this, it's in a folder in my filing cabinet. Paid in full. Owen's portion. Sometimes the truth finds you. Sometimes it just needs you to be the one who opens the mail. This is Broken Vows. I'll see you in the next one.